When any editorial client comes to me for a developmental edit, I always ask that they start with one thing: a letter of intent. Now remember, when a client is coming to me for a developmental edit, they know this manuscript needs a pretty severe overhaul, right? It needs work on the plot. The character development isn't quite there yet. There are some massive things that needs to go on in this manuscript. Now I can read this manuscript cold and I can get a picture in my mind of where it needs to go. And if I do not know what the author's original intent was, I can give feedback that can just send this manuscript in a completely different direction than that author ever really wanted to go in the first place. And this manuscript, it's not my book. It's my client's book. It's my job to get this book in a great shape that meets my client's original goal. Not mine, my client's. The letter of intent allows my client to tell me exactly what they want this book to do, and then I can tailor my feedback accordingly. I'm Holly Schindler, an award-winning author as well as freelance editor, writing coach, and writing instructor. Now the cool thing about this letter of intent is that it is actually a great place to start your own revision. Say you know your book needs an overhaul and you really don't know where to get started. Start by writing yourself a letter of intent. Now remember, this is not a query and it is not a synopsis. It is something you are never going to send to an agent or a publisher. This is simply you documenting what you want to accomplish with your book. Okay, so what goes into one of these letters of intent? First of all, just simply tell me what story you want to tell with this book. Do not worry about, writing a great log line or an elevator pitch or any of that. Get all of that industry speak out of your head. Just write down simply, what is the story you wanted to tell? What drove you to writing this manuscript in the first place? What is the core, central part of this story? What is the heart of this story? Now write down what genre you want this book to be. I'm not talking here about where you think the manuscript sits now, what genre it's the closest to now. What genre do you want this book to be? Where do you want this book to sit on the shelf? Write down a little bit about your character. Who are they as a person? What journey did you want them to take? Okay, now I want you to write down what theme or themes you wanted this book to have. And if you're not sure about theme, if that's kind of a term that eludes you, just write down what message you wanted this book to have. What was the overarching thing you wanted to say with this book? Now write down something about what kind of an emotional experience you wanted your readers to have. Did you want them to feel hopeful? Did you want them to feel terrified? Did you want them on the edge of their seats? What did you want your readers to feel reading this book? Okay, now write down something about the conflict, the original intended conflict of the story. A lot of times that's where book ideas even start, right? You have this idea, what if I put these two characters against one another? You come up with a protagonist and antagonist and wonder what would happen if they got in the room together. Or you just come up with a what if that does have a conflict or a struggle baked into it. What was the original idea? What was your intended conflict or struggle going to be with this book? Now I want you to write down something about yourself. Why are you the right person to tell this story? What drew you to this story? Why is this story important to you? Okay, now finally, what do you want your readers to take away from this story? What do you want them to feel when they turn that final page? What is the idea or impression or thought you want them to be carrying away from your book when they're finished with it? And remember, this is a completely informal document, if you want to call it that. I use the word letter, but it could take any form. It could be a list of bullet points. It could be, maybe you dictate to yourself, if you think better out loud. Whatever it takes to connect with the original goal of this book. By the time you get done writing a draft, everything can be completely muddled in your mind. So we're going right back to the beginning. We are connecting with the original goal of the book. We're not worried about anything else here other than the original goal you had for this manuscript. Now, of course, this brings us to another problem, which is, what if you finished the manuscript and realized you actually wanted to do something different with it than the original goal? That happens a lot too. Okay, answer all of these questions with that new goal in mind. The point here is, it can be really hard to diagnose what is going wrong with your own manuscript. You can have a feeling that it is not working and you just don't know why. So if you start here, if you will start by creating some sort of document regarding your intention for the book, then you actually have created for yourself a measuring stick. You can now take this document, this letter of intent, whatever form it took, and you can compare it to your existing manuscript, and you can begin to see exactly where the holes are and what you need to do to make this manuscript do what you intended for it to do. I hope you found that helpful. If you have some additional questions about revision or self-editing, just drop them in the comments and I would be happy to build videos around them. Catch you in the next video, guys. In the meantime, go write something.